Welcome to the event. My name is Angelle Garcia. I'm a legal assistant with Baker Donelson, and I'm the current president of BLSA, a chapter of NALS, and BLSA is proud to be one of the sponsors for today's event. Our goal today is to provide you with information that will be of value to you in your day-to-day work and in your overall career. If you are certified through NALS, you will receive 1 hour CLE credit for your attendance today. There is a record of attendance being circulated, so make sure you print your name clearly and that you indicate you would like a certificate for your record. We're happy to provide a certificate to anyone who would like one. Just make that selection on the chart. A couple of things, if you could please turn off your cell phones, and if you could please open your chip bags, that would be great. And BLSA would like to thank ALS. ALS is our state level organization, and they sponsored this event with an educational grant. We would also like to thank Courtroom Technologies, Inc. for its sponsorship. Courtroom Technologies, Inc. is located in McCalla and is dedicated to building a better presentation for the courtroom. Brad Campbell, president of Courtroom Technologies, Inc., is here with us today and is providing the recording services for today's event. Finally, BLSA would like to thank Adams & Reese LLP for their sponsorship and for hosting this roundtable in their lovely Birmingham office. Today we have Mr. Aaron McLeod of Adams & Reese with us, and Mr. McLeod joined Adams & Reese in 2008 and focuses his practice on appellate litigation. And at this time I'd like to turn over the floor to Mr. McLeod.
Ladies and gentlemen here present and those who are attending online, please allow me on behalf of Adams & Reese to welcome you warmly to our Birmingham office. As Angelle mentioned, my name is Aaron McLeod, and I do specialize in appellate practice, but I have a broad general litigation practice at all levels of trial court practice, so e-discovery issues do come up in my practice as well. It's not simply appellate. And similarly, our firm, for those of you who may not know, offers a full range of legal services. We handle almost every type of civil litigation, transactional work, and we have a broad footprint. We have offices, in fact, now from Texas to Washington, D.C., and we kind of cover the regional Gulf South part of the country. And I think that's perhaps why it's particularly appropriate that a firm like ours would host an event on electronic discovery, among other things, because e-discovery by its nature tends to cross state lines. And so what you'll discuss here, I'd wager will have application perhaps for other lawyers in my office and lawyers in your offices well beyond this jurisdiction. So with that in mind, we are delighted and pleased to be able to host you here in our Birmingham office. And as you progress through the event today, please don't hesitate to let myself or Terry or anyone else here with Adams & Reese know if you need anything logistically. And with that, I'll let you get started on your program and wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, we have a lot of valuable content to get today, so I want to briefly introduce our panelists. And you can find a full bio for each panelist on the LinkedIn event page. Our panelists today, starting with Melissa Rogozinski. She's the president of ESI Roundtable, and we call her Rogo because it's hard to pronounce her name, and I'm glad I got through that the first time. And next to her is Sheryl Riley. Sheryl Riley, ACP, is a paralegal with Christian & Small. Lisa Rios Carroll is a CP with BBVA Compass. And Terri Sargent, ACP, is a legal assistant here at Adams & Reese. Okay, let's dive in. Our first question is directed to all of our panelists, but we're going to start with Ms. Riley. Ms. Riley, how did you get started in this area?
I actually honestly fell into it. When I started as paralegal in 2000, we weren't even doing e-filing yet. So I came into it on the front end of all the technology as it's developed. I was lucky enough to work for a firm that got into case management software very, very early before a lot of other firms did, so I got some good experience with that a long time before anybody else had it. Got familiar with databases, search queries, actually set up my own database at one of my firms to use for some of our claims. I really think, in addition to falling into it, the only thing I can say is I embraced the technology. I never ran away from it. I was never scared of it. It was a way to learn something new. And I think if you go into it with that attitude, you're not going to know the software the first time you see it. None of us do. None of us up here do. But if you go into it with the attitude of, well, I've probably seen something similar to it, and this will be a good thing to learn, it'll help me grow as a paralegal, I think it really makes a big difference. Who wants to go next?
I started in this legal field because I was a fast typist. I started as a secretary, and they hired me because I can type like 110 words a minute. And so the attorney sat me down and taught me all these legal language. What's a plaintiff, a defendant, a motion, a brief, and that's how I kind of got started. So eventually, I became more intrigued. I wanted to see the investigative side of it. I wanted to see what we needed to prove our client's innocent, or get him the award that he deserved. And so then I started going into more of the production side, the discovery side, and learned a little bit about summation and concordance, and tried to organize all of these terabytes of data, and try to figure out which are the key documents, which are not, and then take it to trial. And later on in life, presenting exhibits at trial became kind of boring, and the really key thing that I learned was trial director. I became certified in trial director because presentation is the key to winning a case. I mean, it's powerful. It's powerful. So.
Well, I was a late bloomer. My husband and I ran electrical contracting business for over 20 years, so I had quite a bit of business experience under my belt. When my children were grown and out of the house and married, I decided to go to school to get my paralegal degree, which I did, and graduated in 2012, and I've been in the legal arena ever since. Worked for about a year with Melissa with the ESI Roundtable, which immersed me into the world of e-discovery, which is extremely fascinating. So I had a great deal of exposure with that, and then it's been a learning process ever since. So I'm loving it.
Well, when I went to paralegal school to get my associate's degree, I'd actually gone to a four-year college on a music scholarship, and I did that for a year. Decided it's not what I wanted. I came back home. I got a paralegal degree, the 2-year degree, because I knew that at some point I would make a decision where I wanted my career to be, and I would go back for my bachelor's degree. And so I did eventually go back. I finished my bachelor's degree at the age of 31, and I got a degree in communication and marketing, and I ended up in a job in sales, court reporting and trial sales, which is where I met most of you here in the room. So I have been out of being a litigation paralegal for 10 years. I've been in legal for 22 years. And the company I worked for was acquired in about a year and a half, and that's where I started learning about e-discovery. And basically, as a sales rep, they told us learn everything that we sell in all of the companies we just acquired. And so as a paralegal, I just always threw myself into my work, and it didn't matter if I had done it or not. I'm going to figure out how to do it, and I'm going to excel at it. I am going to deliver the best possible product to my attorneys that I can. And that's how I started learning about e-discovery. And then in 2008, at a conference, at a trade show, I had a conversation with Judge Scott Vowell, who was our presiding judge at the time, and both of us just having the same conversation about the deficiency in education and knowledge and competency in technology and e-discovery that we could both see from our own positions in the community. And there was a desperate need for just creating our own local education group and educate ourselves, and that's what we did. And so I've actually had the Roundtable for 8 years, and 4 years into it, it turned into a business. And in a couple of weeks, I'll be making some pretty significant announcements because the Roundtable is getting ready to turn another corner.
Wonderful, thank you. And also, whether you're attending here live or via the webinar, if you want to get involved in the discussion online, use the hashtag WonderWomen. Thank you. And the second question is, Ms. Sargent, how much value is really placed on technical knowledge and efficiency in the hiring process?
Well, I polled some hiring managers in some law firms, including ours here, and I was really blown away when she told me that it's over 90% of the decision, they're based on your experience in technology. I had no idea. I mean, that goes across the board, regardless of how much they like you, regardless of what your referrals are. That's the bottom line, is what can you produce in the areas of technology.
I don't think you really can be of benefit to your firm unless you're proficient in the emerging legal technologies, and
Agreed.
specifically the technologies they're using.
Agreed.
Well, and I'll add to this, without pointing out, there are people in the room that I actually have had firm administrators and office managers here in town and other cities contact me instead of contacting a recruiter. Specifically, I need a tech-savvy paralegal, can you help me find one? I will pluck one from another firm and pay them more. And they're coming to me now as an educator instead of going to a recruiter because, you know, they've got their reasons why they're doing that, but I mean, it's significant. It's not really even an option anymore. We can't continue to treat this as though it's an option. It's the law, it's ethical, you have a job to do to support your attorneys. I mean, you're gonna work yourself out of a job if you don't.
I agree. I mean, every job that I have applied for, and I have not changed jobs frequently over the course of my career, but when I have decided it's time to make a move, the technology aspect is what I've built up on my resume. It's what I've kind of focused on, technology and professional development both, which I think go together. You do the professional development to get better at the technology. And I think that all of the jobs that I have gotten over my career, with the exception of the first one, really were a result, and even some offers that I didn't take, were a result of that technological proficiency and the effort that I've put into that I could show.
I learned on the job. So, you know, being the fast typist, I was, you know, I utilized WordPerfect. I learned everything about WordPerfect. Then we moved on to Outlook, learned everything about Outlook. I could merge mass mail. I could do all of that. PowerPoint, on the job, I learned how to incorporate a video in PowerPoint and display it out there. That was in the beginning, you know, and I was a secretary, and that's what I did. I learned, but that helped me move into a paralegal role because I was able to create presentations that they used in trial. Later, I learned how to use summation and concordance, which is, you know, your documents, and learning how to organize all of those terabytes of data. That, you know, with all litigation process, you start at the beginning and then you end up in trial, right? So in trial, I learned that software. You can do this on the job, and it will benefit you greatly.
Thank you. And Ms. Rios, we're going to go back to you again.
Oh.
Why should I become more proficient, and how does becoming more proficient affect my current position, which you sort of touched on, and how does it affect the client relations?
Okay, so I have this big speech prepared for this one. I want to become indispensable. I want to plant a seed in my boss's brain to know that he cannot be proficient at the practice of law without me. Right? So I want him to know that he has to utilize me. He needs me. I'll give you an example. 25 years ago, and yes, I am that old, 25 years ago, when I started as a secretary, I was assigned to an associate. And the associate was assigned, had a paralegal and me. And so the paralegal was assigned to a senior partner and her. Well, the paralegal focused on senior partner projects, spent more time on those, was very good at it, and was detail-oriented. But she didn't spend a whole lot of time on the associate's work because, you know, she's an associate. And so eventually the work got sloppy for the associate to present in court. And I would see the associate organizing the discovery, preparing exhibit lists, preparing the trial notebook. And so I went to her as the secretary and I said, how can I help? You know, I can do this. I'm organized. I can do this. And so she taught me. She taught me how to use Excel, how to put everything in an Excel spreadsheet, create a trial notebook, create the exhibits in the way that she wanted it done. I got really good at it. She no longer utilized her paralegal at all. I was her main focus. How it benefited the client was the night of trial. the client comes in and he says, listen, I've noticed that you are billing a lot of time, attorney time on this, but I don't see any paralegal time, but clearly you're utilizing a paralegal. And so the associate said, no, I'm not using a lot. She's a secretary. The firm pays her overtime to stay late and help me out. Client loved it. He was like, you know what? For now on, I want you to use her overtime pay, put it on my bill. I'm going to pay for her overtime. In addition to that, every day that she stays past 5 o'clock, I'm going to pay for her dinner. And that's incredible. I mean, that was incredible for me. Now, you fast forward 10 years later. I'm now working at a law firm in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm working for this major attorney. He's amazing. I'm a paralegal at this point, but he's amazing. He answers his own phones. He maintains his own calendar. He sets his own appointments. He drafts his own letters. He drafts his own pleading. He enters his own time, and he e-files all by himself.
Where can we get one of those?
Right? He was amazing. And so, me being his paralegal, I'm doing the discovery. So I'm organizing his documents in summation, putting out the key documents, getting his exhibits ready for the hearing, deposition, trial, creating the trial notebooks. I go with him to trial, and it's amazing. So one day I asked him, I said, why do you have your secretary? What does she do? Oh, she gets me lunch. And I'm like, lunch? And he's like, oh, occasionally she does my time. I'm like, well, I eat lunch. Why don't I pick up your lunch when I pick up my lunch? It's like, okay. 2 weeks later, she's transferred to another attorney. And maybe a year later, she's laid off. Now, you might be thinking, God, Lisa, you got that poor secretary fired. No. She got laid off. There was an economic downturn, and, things happened. But she didn't make herself indispensable. She was getting him lunch. That's not good. And so, I think to myself, well, how smart can I be? Now I'm doing the job of a secretary and a paralegal, getting a paralegal job, pay. And so I think to myself, well, it wasn't too bad, because really, what was the task that I inherited from her? Picking up his lunch and occasionally doing his timesheet. That's what, an hour of my time once a week? That's not a big deal. I can do that. I can handle that. And so what ended up happening is my billable rates, every paralegal, if you're in here, you'll know that you're required to bill a certain amount of hours a month. Well, my requirements were 75 hours a month because I was doing the role of 2 people, secretary and paralegal. Full-time paralegals had to bill 150 hours a month. And they were saying, that's not fair. And I'm like, oh, seriously? Not fair. The biggest compliment I've ever received was at the same firm. My boss worked on multi-million-dollar litigation, and one of his cases got wrapped up into an MDL. And if you're not familiar with an MDL, it's a multi-district litigation, and basically it's all these plaintiffs want to sue the same defendant for the same issues, and so they try to streamline the discovery process. And so we're in New York, there's about 30 plaintiffs, and this one itty-bitty defendant, and everybody wants to take the deposition of this security guy that worked on Wall Street. And so the judge said, okay, you can take his deposition, but you're only going to get 18 hours, and you need to figure out how to divide those 18 hours among those 30 plaintiff's attorneys. Okay, so my boss, being the brilliant man that he is, got 6 hours, and then a Texas attorney got 18 hours, or 12 hours. So we go first, and I'm nervous, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in a boardroom filled with 30 plaintiff's attorneys, then the defendant, and then his 3 attorneys, and just me. I'm the only paralegal there. I have 3,000 deposition exhibits. It can go any way. Depending on his answers, it'll go this way or that way, right? So the deposition is timed because my boss only has 6 hours to depose this man. And so an hour before the deposition started, I went and I grabbed his outline, and I grabbed all of the exhibits that he was going to possibly use in that moment in the morning session. And it was fantastic. He was like, question, question, exhibit, question, exhibit, question, exhibit. We did not have any dead air. You know, we utilized every minute of those 6 hours. And when it was over, I was like, oh, it's over. Packing it all up. The Texas attorney that is going to be deposing this man the following week goes up to my boss and he says, that was fantastic. I love it. Can I borrow her? And he says, yes. Oh my gosh. So he gets on a plane to go back to come back to Birmingham. I stay in New York for another week, preparing this man for his 12-hour session with this poor deponent. And we use my exhibits because it was like, I don't know what you have, but this is what I have, and we go by what I go. You know, so adapt your outline to mine. And we, you know, Monday came around and we did the same thing. An hour before the deposition started, I pulled all of the exhibits that he could possibly use in the morning session. And then lunch came around, we ate for 20 minutes, and then I started picking all the exhibits that he could use in the afternoon. For 2 days, we did this. And finally, it was over. The deponent was off the hook. He was done. He did his 18 hours. I'm like, I went to the deponent and I said, you thought you were nervous. I was nervous. Oh my gosh, but you did a great job. I think I did a fabulous job. The deponent's attorney said to me, if you ever decide to move to New York City, you have a job with me. I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That was the biggest compliment I ever got. I have a little funny that was sent to me yesterday by one of my coworkers. And I don't know if you can see this, but it is a man and a woman at a table. And the woman is working on a crossword puzzle and the man's reading a newspaper. And she says, what's a 9-letter word for indispensable? And he says, paralegal. Well, another 9-letter word, secretary. So.
Just to add briefly to that.
I'm sorry. I get very passionate about this.
In addition to doing the best job that I can do and doing an ethical job and doing everything that I can do, I really feel like my role in the law firm, honestly, is to make my attorney look as good as I possibly can. If he looks good, that reflects on me. If things get e-filed that have typos, if he goes to court and we're not prepared, we don't have the right exhibits, there's a glitch with pulling things up during a deposition, anything like that, I mean, it looks bad for him.
Savvy. And then just
And
obviously.
her products made us look good, which in turn made our attorneys look
Well,
good.
and having been a
I mean, that's-
paralegal, I knew how to show the product the first time and say, look, here's how you can save 75% of your time and be more efficient, which actually leads into my second point. Now that I'm so immersed with e-discovery, if you haven't heard of Casey Flattery, you should look him up. Casey was actually in-house counsel for Kia Motorsports, and while he was in-house, he developed this legal technology assessment test, and he sent it out to all of his outside counsel and had them take the test. And it was just basic the office suite, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, outlines, email, things like that. And they didn't really fare so well. Matter of fact, they all failed it, is my understanding. If I'm wrong, this has been recorded live, then I stand corrected. But he went back to his counsel and he said, look, I'm not going to fire you, but I'm not paying you what you're charging me because you're not using technology to be efficient enough. And so he reduced their rates. And the third thing that I will say is that I am currently having conversations with corporate counsel that are telling me that they're implementing similar measures now. And if you and your attorneys are not embracing technology and becoming efficient with it, you're going to lose clients. The laws have changed twice in the federal system. ABA has now made learning about technology an ethical obligation. The California State Bar issued an opinion specifically making learning about e-discovery an ethical obligation, and even saying you either learn about it, you hire someone that knows about it, or you refuse the client. Florida State Bar last summer issued, Florida has to get 30 CLE credit hours in a 3-hour period. And there was some debate. They wanted to tack on 3 hours of technology credit. And what they ended up doing is instead of substituting 3 hours, they added 3 hours. So they now have to get 33 hours CLE credit in 3 years, and it has to be 3 hours of technology CLE. I am, because of the position I'm in, I'm aware of conversations happening at other state levels as well that I think you're going to see a ripple effect in the next few years where other states are going to be learning about technology and ethical obligation. You're just flat going to lose clients. Your clients are going to fire you.
I'm going to throw one other thing out there. This is a discussion that I know we've all had recently as far as how becoming technologically proficient affects your current position. There's a feeling among some of us that the hybrid position of secretary and paralegal together, like Lisa was talking about, is the way things are looking in the future. That in 10 years, we may not have a secretary position and a paralegal position both supporting the same attorney. They're going to be looking for somebody who has the paralegal skills, can do the e-discovery, but who also can enter time and apparently get lunch. And Lisa was, on the cutting edge of that one.
Yes.
So as far as how it affects your current position, I mean, that's something to think about. I mean, I have great paralegal skills. My secretarial skills, I probably should brush up on. I mean, that's something that down the road, I may have to be able to do dictation. I may have to be able to do some of the other things that I don't do and have never done. I started my career in the legal field as a paralegal.
Well, and I'm gonna jump back in because now this is becoming a real conversation. We want you all to engage with us. We actually do have an audience that is watching this streaming live through YouTube. We have about 30 people that registered for it. It's a first. We beta tested that last week, and so we're live right now on YouTube. It'll be recorded. And also you can tweet, if you take pictures of us and take pictures of each other and tweet it, hashtag Wonder Women, and you can tweet it to @eDiscoveryCLEs, which is my Twitter account, and I will put it out for everybody else. But my secretary skills and my paralegal skills have completely paid off in spades with the technology. I'm like the girl sitting here too at the table. It happened to me. When it happened 10 years ago, when e-discovery really started kind of becoming what it is now, it happened to me like it happened to Sheryl, like it happened to Lisa. And now we're in a position where not only have we embraced it, but we can help others guide along that path and help you become more efficient and guide you to the right resources and make yourself, as Lisa says, indispensable. So none of us would be where we are had we not embraced the technology.
And pestered each other with questions occasionally.
Right. I mean, and I'm in
There's
business.
a support group
yeah.
there that makes a big difference.
And I'm in business for myself. Like, I didn't wake up one day and say, oh, I think I want to be my own boss and be broke for 5 years. I mean, it's hard. But it happened. And because of embracing the technology, pushing myself to learn, just like all of them, having the relationships that I have here that I started in Birmingham, the ESI Roundtable just happened. It just evolved itself. And I mean, y'all, we started this, that's right, I said y'all, we started this in Alabama, in Birmingham, Alabama. They think we only have Jesus in football here. And we got e-discovery too, but the round table's nationwide now. But we did that here.
And I'll add something, and I know a lot of the big firms here in Birmingham do it, but we have a lot of people attending today from Baker Donelson, and all of you know, in-house, if you're not certified in Word, Excel, Outlook, and the programs that you use to do your job, you don't have your job. Mm-hmm. So we actually have classes, and you have to take exams and pass them in-house to maintain your position. And that's something that if you don't have that inside your firm, you may want to position yourself to be the go-to person for that and be the person that can teach others the technology and make yourself indispensable.
My law firm's staring at me.
Is your law firm staring at you?
They are.
So we'll move on to the next question. And Rogo, we're going to go back to you.
Okay.
How do you obtain training to become more proficient?
My first suggestion would be to get on LinkedIn, get on Twitter. I can make recommendations. Anytime I make recommendations, I mean, there's a lot of resources out there, but I usually recommend find 3 that you like in a particular area that you're pursuing. Set up meetings with the vendors, do the demos, go to lunch with them. There's lots of vendors that have really, really great webinars and really great content, and all of them try to do it at lunchtime. Register for those. Don't skip it. Attend it. Make notes, and get connected with other technology leaders in the community. I mean, any one of us will be happy to talk to you aside offline and help you understand where we get information from. But if your firm has a budget for sending you to CLEs, then absolutely take advantage of that. If they don't, think very, very hard about taking it out of your own pocket. Get yourself educated. There's too many resources for me to mention. I want to tout my company all day long. But,
Well, I was going to say, when we were kicking this around before we came, the first thing when Angelle asked that question that three of us said was, ESI Roundtable. I mean, it's our go-to place for, even if you don't have what we're looking for, who does.
I'm connected throughout the industry,
Yeah.
and I can get you to whatever kind of content or education that you need.
I think too, I could interject here, I think one of the key things is just taking the initiative. People are not going to come up to you and say, I want to teach you this, or you need to, unless it's your boss and they're requiring you to do something, but you have to take that initiative. And once you open that door, there's just unlimited resources out there. But
Yeah,
that's the thing, is taking the step that, even if it's uncharted waters, even if it's in a program that you're not familiar with or anything, go ahead. It'll lead to other things.
Yeah, and the vendors do have good training
They do.
sessions. I mean, I know when we've been looking at different case management software or different document management, meeting with the vendors, 2 or 3 vendors, and just saying, demo this for me, let me try it out, sit here with me while I type in queries.
And they're more than willing.
They're more than willing, because
Yes.
it's a potential sale for
Right.
them. And I mean, I'm not calling somebody I know I'm not going to use, but getting that half an hour of training on a bunch of different programs, regardless of which one I pick, is good overall. And there's CLEs out there too. I mean, not just the ESI Roundtable. I've taken some. The Institute for Paralegal Education, IPE, offers some good ones as well.
Are you cheating on me?
Every once in a while. Actually, I haven't gone in a while.
I will say, if your
But
office has the program, whether it could be any program, whether it's summation, concordance, or whatever, open it up, play with it. Go through every little, file they have. You might learn something new, and then people will start coming to you. That's how I sort of learned summation. My boss at the time was a tech guru, and he knew summation, so he would teach me a little bit here and there. But when I got access to it, I just started playing.
You can't
And,
break it.
Yeah. You can delete.
You can delete, but you really can't break the program.
Yeah.
And I'll add here too that also when you are the paralegal, Sheryl and I used to work together, and when we would have a big case and we thought, well, we can use the technology in a more efficient manner, she and I were given free reign to go and, like she said, interview vendors and find out who would be the best fit for the project that we were doing, so that we could keep costs down, so that we could be more efficient, and so that we could produce better work product. And that's going to affect the client relations. So that's another thing that you need to think about.
And make your attorney look good.
And make your attorney look good, which affects client relations. Okay, so we'll move on to the next question, and Ms. Sargent, this is going to be for you. How do you highlight your proficiency in your resume to set it apart from the others?
I think the number one thing you have to have there is experience. So I also spoke with the hiring managers about this as well. That's really where the proof is going to be, is how long have you had experience doing this? What did you use it in? How long have you had training in it, updated training, that sort of thing. So anything that you are proficient in, I would move that to the top. I would highlight how long you've had experience doing that, and then if you've had any additional training in it or anything like that, add that to it as well. Not just proficient in Microsoft Office or proficient in summation or whatever, but if you've gone a little beyond that, detail how you're proficient in it.
You could also maybe list important CLEs that you have attended.
Right.
To show that you are utilizing
Ongoing
continuing
training, yes.
Continuing legal education is very important to every one of us. I mean, we really have to think about
Whether
that.
you're certified or not.
Whether
it
you're
still keeps
certified
you
or
current.
not, that's absolutely true.
Volunteer to be a speaker. Get out of your comfort zone. And again, there's people in the community that you can partner with if you haven't done it before, you're nervous. There's opportunities. I mean, that's actually the people who speak for the round table, the attorneys and judges, and now I have paralegals. I know Sheryl has spoken, but a lot of them take the opportunity to speak with Roundtable or, other organizations because they actually want to dive in and learn for themselves. It's something that they have to learn it in order to teach it. And if you'll go to the Roundtable's YouTube channel, a few years ago, I did a webinar called Empowering Paralegals with another organization. And we had 4 speakers, and one of the speakers was Ann Pearson. She's in Atlanta, Georgia, and I think it's part number 3. We had it broken down into 4 separate parts on my YouTube channel, but part number 3, Ann specifically talks about how to craft your resume for those kinds of career advancements. And, kind of like Sheryl and Lisa are saying, even if you haven't had an opportunity to actively use a particular kind of technology for a case, at least sit through demos, get the free trial license from the vendors, play with it, practice with it, at least have something because there are plenty of firms that themselves haven't embraced technology the way that they need to, so you may not have an opportunity, but like Terri said, you kind of have to own your own career. You have to embrace it, and you have to drive it and choose it.
I would say don't be afraid to use a cover letter to explain your proficiency in technology. If your resume's, your resume can only say so much because, some people want to have a 1-page resume, but you've got all this experience. If you want to keep your resume at a 1 page or 2 pages, but you still have more to add to it, write a cover letter. So.
Thank you. And I'm not sure if, Lori, if you want to answer this.
But you have to come up here.
I told her we were going to throw her under the bus for this one.
Y'all have already answered all those questions. You look for certifications, the computer skills, the training, certifications. So they pretty much covered.
So keep that at the top of your resume and make sure you highlight it.
And we currently do not do competency testing, but that's something I think we really need to do, and I think you're going to see a lot more people moving towards that.
I think that competency testing allows you to, I guess as they say, hire slowly.
We've been
But
thinking
hire
about it
permanently.
for the hiring process, but, here in the Baker Donelson does it, for employees that they already have, is a really good idea.
We have to attend, it's in-house, but it's called Baker College. And we have to obtain so many hours of continuing legal education in-house just to be able to maintain our positions. And we're encouraged to attend, other CLEs outside. And it does not matter if you're certified through NALS or NALA or any other certifying board, you're required to have that CLE because they want to make sure that they stay on the cutting edge. And I know a lot of firms do that. I don't think that's specific to Baker Donelson. I applaud them for it, but I know a lot of firms do that.
I think that's a great idea too, about stressing your technical skills in a covered letter.
Let me give a real world example to everybody in the room. I'm not going to tell you who, but there are 3 people in this room who got their jobs because the law firm reached out to me and said, I need a tech savvy so-and-so. There are 3 people sitting in this room who now have better jobs, better pay. I need y'all to go ahead and get competent because I'm fielding calls and I have no one else to send.
That's right.
So,
Do you have some business cards?
Yes, I do. Are you taking pictures and tweeting it?
Yeah,
there are requirements.
there are firms out there that
Yes.
will pay to get people away
Yes,
from
they will.
wherever they are.
And you
Yes,
may
they
be doing like Lisa and merging 2 roles.
Yeah,
But
you might
that
just
is-
be taking over somebody else's
That is a
position.
trend that we're seeing because if you can have one person who's your go-to person who is using technology efficiently, you're going to use that person. that person's able to do what two people couldn't do before. So you could actually make yourself indispensable, and that is a requirement if you want to keep your job and you want to grow your career in this environment. So with that in mind, we're going to get to another question. And Rogo, do you want to field this one first?
If you want me to, I will.
Well, we'll start with you. What technology should they be looking at specifically to become efficient?
I'll talk a little bit about law firm technology, although I've been out of selling that for a while, so I'm going to have to get you girls to back me up. But I know that learning trial software and your depositions should all be coming back in some kind of an electronic format. And if there's videos, learn to use that technology proficiently. Learn to use PowerPoint, social media, learn how to do the research on social media to find things, but learn what the law says about what you can and can't do when you're researching. You can't go connect with someone or friend with someone on social media just to kind of see what else they're posting. That's actually unethical, and you'll get in a lot of trouble for that. So, learn those kinds of technologies, but also, as far as e-discovery is concerned, there's Relativity is kind of the software that has kind of really become pronounced in the last several years, and a lot of vendors have acquired a license to use Relativity. And there are plenty of wonderful service providers that I work with. I can't name them because the Roundtable is agnostic, but there's lots. The fear of dealing with e-discovery has come from the technical terminology and the perceived cost. Well, we have evolved over the last 10 years in this industry, and so the cost has been commoditized, and there are several wonderful service providers that have great consulting teams. They're not a hard sell anymore. They know how to talk to you about your cases and your specific cases, and certainly most of the ones that I work with will even tell you if they don't think that they're the right fit. And that's why I enjoy working with them, one of the reasons. But it really, as far as e-discovery is concerned, it really has gotten to a point where it's more cost prohibitive for you to not deal with it. And I'm going to stop my agnostic self there.
I was going to say Relativity as my first choice, because all of the vendors have some proprietary software built with Relativity on top of it. So they don't all work exactly the same way. They don't all look the same way. The queries don't all necessarily run the same way. But Relativity is the base for almost every vendor. I think every vendor I've actually talked to.
Right, and don't get caught up in all the bells and whistles.
Right, the bells and whistles for each one are different, but Relativity is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get familiar with Relativity itself or through any vendor that you can get a hold of a trial for, that's going to be your big one for e-discovery.
Relativity is overrated.
Says the person with the proprietary in-house software.
I would suggest be familiar with the basics. Word, PowerPoint, Excel, know it, love it, do the magic with the macros and all that good stuff, the mass smelling. Then move on. Move on to the document production, whether it's Relativity or some other one, Summation, Concordance. There's so many out there. Some that are hosted, some that are non-hosted, but they basically perform the same function. You do a query and it brings back documents, and then you have your reviewer tool. You can mark it as responsive, non-responsive. They all do the same thing. Some might be prettier, some may just be basic. I think the key is being organized. If you can be organized, you can be successful and learn any technology that you have, and taking it all the way to trial with some kind of trial software program. You may work for an attorney that doesn't embrace technology, but if you show him a trial software that streamlines a deposition with a document and an email at the same time and see the inconsistency, it's powerful. It's powerful to a jury and to a judge. So, organization, and the basic technologies.
Basic technology that you didn't mention too is Adobe. Adobe Pro. I mean, you've got to be able to work in Adobe.
Adobe's
and
amazing.
It is if you know all the ins and outs of it.
Yeah.
Take some time and play with that if you haven't.
Can I tell them what your husband said about you working for me for a year? Of course, it's a startup, so it's a very different environment. And God bless her, because if it hadn't been for Terri, the Roundtable wouldn't be where it is now. But when it was time to do something different, and you know, she's here now at Adams and Reese, her husband came to me one time and he said, and this was only her second year of being a paralegal, and she was working for me instead of a law firm, and he said, what you did, what the Roundtable did for Terri was equivalent to a master's degree in e-discovery. And, you know, again, like I said, I know the process of how she got hired here. And they went through a lot of candidates. And when she interviewed, because of her background in e-discovery and technology, she did not get out of the building before they called her back and made her the offer. So it's not just a theory, it's real. So
what technology do you think that you need to know? Since you're the expert in getting
referring
hired.
to you.
I have to agree with Lisa. You know, you're going to have to be proficient in whichever one your law firm uses. And if you don't have that proficiency going in, you better be getting proficient with it while you're there. Utilize tutorials and anything you can. I'm a huge go-by person. I don't like to reinvent the wheel. And so if I know something that someone else has already done that works, and I can tweak that or I can apply that to what I'm doing, it's a time saver. A lot of times it will prevent errors. Sometimes it'll cause errors. Both ends of the spectrum. But there again, you have to adapt your style, your learning style, to where you are. And so I would say get really proficient in what you do, and then you can branch out as the needs arise, you know, but that day-to-day operation is the one that you're going to have to be really proficient with.
And I would just add to what Terry's saying, you do need to be proficient in the software that your firm's using. And once you become proficient in that software and you are the go-to person, do not be afraid to seek out more cost-efficient or effective technology. You know, be the person who's out there finding the next best thing that's going to improve client relations and going to improve your work product and your efficiency. And so with that in mind, I'm going to tell you guys that you should be ethical and be organized and pursue CLE like your career depends on it, because it does.
Be indispensable.
Be indispensable. That is the big message today. And you do that by taking it upon yourself to take control of your career. It's your career. It's not just a job. It's your career. And we all know that as you move through this community, if you decide to move to another firm, or if you decide to move out of state to another firm, what you've done today is going to affect how valuable you're going to be tomorrow, and how you can market yourself, and how you can earn the salary that you want to earn. So I want to just thank everyone for coming today. And BLSA is dedicated to providing CLE to its members, and we're so glad that so many of you came today. And we're going to have some exciting events later this year, and we hope that you can attend that. And I just want to thank you all for coming, and have a wonderful afternoon. And this will be on the YouTube channel if you want to review it. So thank you all.
#WonderWomen.